Four words. Four words would change the history of not just music, but change the history of our culture. On the night of September 7th, 1996, two men were on a collision course. And when Tupac asked Baby Lane, "You from the South?" what happened next would forever change the course of history.
Is it Orlando?
Yes.
Let me just ask you point blank. Did you kill Tupac Shakur?
I didn't kill Tupac. I mean, I don't know why, you know what I'm saying? They would even say something like that.
Orlando Baby Lane Anderson was born on August 13th, 1974, to his mother, Charlotte Davis, and to his father, Harvey Lee Anderson. His mom and dad split up when he was young, and his mother had to work so much that she ended up sending him to live with his grandmother, Utah Williams, who he was very close to. But even though in the public eye he's known as just a gangbanger, but he wasn't your average gangbanger. He was never convicted of a crime. He didn't smoke weed. He didn't smoke cigarettes. He wasn't much of a drinker. And he also came from, a loving, close-knit family. And his brother, he ended up attending the University of California, Berkeley. And his grandmother, she had the type of house where all the aunts and uncles would be there. So it was a real good vibe there. Like it wasn't like he was from a broken place where he had nowhere to turn. He had a lot of people, a lot of support. And he actually ended up graduating from high school itself. And it's said that his class ring was one of his most prized possessions. But that didn't stop him from banging the Southside Compton Crips, because Orlando had a fierce reputation in the streets as a deadly shooter. I mean, he was implicated in multiple shootings, but never convicted. And what's even more ironic is Orlando really wanted to be in the music business. That was his dream and that was a passion of his. But by the time 1996 came around, he was 21. He had pretty much made no progress in his dreams of, making it in music. So he settled in with his girlfriend, Rashina. And they lived in Lakewood, California. And she was a nursing student. And they had two baby girls together. But Orlando also, he had a little chick on the side, a woman named Thais Lanier. And they also had a baby as well. And this led Baby Lane to start looking for ways to provide for his family and his kids. And when his brother Pooh returned home from graduating from college, they began to, cook up different plans so they can start making some money. And that's when they started Success Records, their very own record company. And Orlando also had another passion, which was sports. So on September 7th, 1996, him and his girlfriend Rashina, they drove to Las Vegas, checked into the Excalibur Hotel, which is right across the street from the MGM Grand. And allegedly, Orlando snuck in through the back at the MGM. He wasn't even really supposed to be there. He didn't even have tickets, but it's almost like it was fate or something. Because that night, Mike Tyson made light work of his opponent, Bruce Seldon, to win the WBA heavyweight title. And this caused Tupac, and the Death Row entourage to celebrate, because Tupac and Mike Tyson was real close. But as they made their way through the lobby, somebody stopped Tupac and pointed out Orlando Anderson. And he's known as a Southside Crip, and they were fierce rivals with the Pyru Bloods. And that was who Tupac had became affiliated with through his time with Death Row, and him being a close friend to the CEO Suge Knight. But what really makes this a deep situation is the beef that was going on between Death Row and Bad Boy Records. See, Puffy was known for paying for protection while he was out in LA for him and his Bad Boy artists, because of all the issues he was going through with Suge Knight. And he would get that protection from the Southside Crips through Keefe D, one of the leaders. And Keefe D was the uncle of Orlando Anderson. See, but all of this brings us back to that critical moment in history when Tupac walks up to Orlando Anderson and says, "You from the South?" And when Orlando Anderson answers with a confident yeah, Tupac punches him in the head, and the rest of the Death Row entourage jumps in, getting to kick him, stomp him, then sliding off into the night. But see, that wasn't the end of the story, because only a few hours later, Tupac and Suge Knight's vehicle would be shot up, and Tupac would spend the next 7 days fighting for his life until he succumbed to his wounds on September 13th, 1996. And the death of Tupac sent shockwaves not just through the music industry, but through the whole world. And it also set off a bloody and violent war on the streets of Compton between the Pyrus and the Southside Compton Crips, resulting in at least 5 shooting deaths. But through all of this, Orlando, he remained positive through all the drama and everything he was going through, as far as, people knowing him as the man who killed Tupac. He still kept his head up. He ended up buying a place to set up his record label headquarters. He began to record local talent under his Success Records banner. It's also said that Orlando began to show a little money around the hood at this time. And y'all know how it is when a hood dude start to come up, he start to shine a little bit. And there was also a rumor that he got this money as hush money from Suge Knight. And you're probably wondering, why would Suge Knight pay the man who's responsible for Tupac's death? I'll give you that answer. It's because Suge Knight was facing a decade in prison behind the MGM Grand incident. It was a violation of his probation, and since he had previous violations, they was trying to really give him a lot of time. So allegedly he paid Orlando to not testify against him. Orlando Anderson's lawyer ended up denying these allegations, and it was never really found out if it was true or not, but a lot of people believe that that's what happened. And it's also said by Orlando's attorney that, during one of their conversations, that Orlando told him that he really didn't expect to live too long. So I don't know if Orlando, always felt like death was upon him or death was always near, but allegedly that's what he said to his lawyer. Eventually, the LAPD got tired of all of the, the killings and the violence that was going on in that area. So they began to do like a big gang sweep and a crackdown. So they would do a lot of mass arrests. And in one of those arrests, they ended up snatching up Orlando, and they was trying to charge him with the murder of an Edward Webb. But he was eventually released, and those charges were never filed against him. But on May 29, 1998, Orlando ended up getting together with an old friend of his by the name of Michael Durrell. And a little after 3 p.m., they pulled into a Sig's record store. This is where this record store is at is actually in the Corner Pocket Crips territory. And even though that Orlando was from a Crip gang and, they was riding around in the Crip neighborhood, these two are still rivals. And Orlando allegedly spotted a man by the name of Michael Stone, who was with his nephew by the name of Jerry Stone. And when he spotted him, he confronted him about money that he allegedly owed to him. Now there's two different sides to this one. Some people say that it was about money, and he confronted Michael Stone about that, and it became a big issue. And the other side says that it was simply that they were rivals, they spotted each other, and things went the way they went when rival gangs meet up. Because somewhere in this altercation or verbal exchange, all 4 men drew guns, and all 4 men began to open up fire on each other, leaving 3 of the men dead and 1 man injured. Man, this story crazy, man. They said it was bullets all over that scene, all in the cars. Like, they was just out there letting off on each other. And it left Orlando Anderson dead, Michael Stone dead, and his nephew, Jerry Stone, dead as well. And the man that Orlando Anderson was with, Michael Durrell, he was wounded, but he lived. But unfortunately for him, he ended up being convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Now, it's said by people close to Orlando that he would often say that he's not going to live his life in fear, looking over his shoulder and scared because, people had labeled him as the man who killed Tupac. So he was just going to continue to live his life and be happy. And he did that. But unfortunately, the violent life that he led also matched up with his violent demise. And he'll also forever be known as the man who killed Tupac.